It was a $1.2 million commercial. Okay, we're gonna close off the entrance to the store. We're gonna have police, and this client's face just went white. Like I'm gonna lose my job. And the thing that drives advertising, which is where commercials get their work from, advertising is being driven by consumer demand. Trying to keep up with the rapidly changing demands of consumers and how they like to consume media. And then you have production over here trying to make sense of whatever's going on the agency side.
This is Produced With, honest conversations about how great work gets made and the cost of doing it right. And before we get started, we're really into the analytics and we notice a lot of you are watching but aren't subscribed. Please consider to like, subscribe so that you can actually keep up with the show. Maybe for the audience, it would be great if you could give like your background, how you got into commercial producing and EPing. It would be great to kind of just hear the origin story there.
I got into commercial production in a very unconventional way. I think a lot of people, unless you're the film school route or something like that, I think everybody has come and entered into this space and into this industry and from a lot of different unique opening points. For me, this was not even on my radar. I studied economics in college. I got my MBA. I was doing government contracting for several years before I was like, this ain't it. This isn't it. This is not it at all. But I, in having that realization, I was like, I have this creative itch. I know I'm a creative person. And so while I was working full-time and getting my master's degree, I went to school for photography. And then that just really started to unlock things for me. And I still didn't see the whole path at that point. And so my entire career has really just been like feeling an urge and saying yes, following all of these little breadcrumbs. And like as life has just thrown different things my way, like starting a family, moving, starting businesses, closing businesses, it's just been me leaning into my gut and into my intuition and just like following the next thing. And the interesting thing is that every choice and every decision that I have made to get me where, I am now. So like I entered as a still photographer, shifted into producing for photography and for video, all the way up to working agency side, creative production company side, executive producer. And now freelance EPing and coaching commercial filmmakers and photographers. Every choice and every decision that I've made have all made sense in hindsight, like looking back, like everything is just like stacked and stacked and stacked.
It's amazing how that rolls over. You think you might be doing complete shifts, but like all the like gained experience or learnings or failures kind of all do compound into hopefully like the decisions that you make now. And it's a beautiful thing if you retrospectively can see that.
Yeah. And I would imagine that you're kind of like in a similar situation, right? Because you have a background in producing and now you own this startup and are doing amazing things for the industry.
Oh, totally. I think a lot like you in that sense. And it's funny because I did start with photography and kind of evolved into then video camera work and then got into film and so on. And if I didn't, I think about this a lot. Like if there was like a choice that I didn't make a course the like 10, 20 years, would I be where I am today? And I don't think so. Like, to be honest, like, if I didn't dabble into photography here, if I didn't download Adobe Premiere there, or, just these decisions that you kind of just have made and over time have kind of just, snowballed into what you're doing now, or would that have given me the guts to move to LA and then like be a producer and then to, just it's a domino. So no, yeah, for sure. For me, like I don't think I'd probably be at like, I'm sure I'd be doing something still entrepreneurial. I think that's something that's always been a gut feeling, like kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I haven't gotten an MBA or haven't like done the call it the normal route for like when you think about business and entrepreneurship. But that's always been a gut that like, I like creating and I enjoy the art of business around creating. So like that could be creating a product, that could be creating software, that could be, one of the dumb, not dumb. It was one of those, like, you ever have like a Shark Tank idea where like 5 years later you see it on Shark Tank and you're like, oh, I thought about this like 5 years ago. Mine was like, I was like when I was first driving 17 or 18, and I would always like put something on my lap, like a phone or whatever it was, and would always just slide off and like, go into the crevice of the seat. And so I was like, like it would be great if you just had like a little sponge thing like right there that like closed it. Why car manufacturers didn't just make the seat square and just like completely like edge it off, I don't know. But this is how I've always thought. Like, it's just like, it's so stupid. Somebody should do something about it. And like, I think it was like 5-6 years later, it was on Shark Tank, and I think like they got $2 million right there and then. And like, I'm sure like
gosh,
hundreds of millions of dollars probably later.
That's so funny. Have you heard of the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
No.
It's a really good book. I really recommend it for like anybody that's creative or anybody that is an entrepreneur too. But the whole premise of this book is centered around the idea that ideas come to you. Like the idea has already selected you, like it selects you. And then if you don't act on it, it's going to like move on to the next person.
It's so funny you say that. I'm getting chills thinking about it. I've felt that my entire life, where ideas feel like they're in this cloud, and then it like comes to you. If you do nothing about it, it literally goes to like the next person, but it's always there. It's not like your original idea per se. Like it does come to you. I can't wait to read that book, because
It's really good.
I feel like I've always kind of leaned towards that.
Yeah.
When you started, what were some like key kind of aha moments that like unlocked this part of the journey? Like obviously it was like starting to learn photography, but like how do you go from like photography, I guess, to like the commercialization of it and then the business, of it? Like, was there any kind of early indicators like that?
Well, kind of like you, like with the sense that like entrepreneurship is just like a part of your DNA. I've always felt that too. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs, not this industry, not creatives whatsoever, like blue collar painting contractors 4 generations back.
Oh, wow.
So that's always been there too. And I think kind of just waiting for me to decide, okay, what am I going to do with this? That's like kind of built into my own system. So you said the like kind of like the different aha moments or like turning points, right? For each of those things. So I think some of them were circumstantial and some of them were just very intuitive. So like knowing I was not meant to sit in a corporate office wearing J. Crew and, fuzzy cubicle walls with fluorescent overhead lights, knowing that wasn't it for me. Like something was like, no. And one of the turning points there that actually got me to actually consider photography as something that I could potentially really do was, I remember it was my first big job out of college. My parents came to visit me. We went to Annapolis, Maryland, and I took them sailing. I took them on a sailing boat, and I felt so proud of myself. I paid for it. Like it was the first thing that I was like really like giving back in a way to my mom and dad. But on that sailing trip, I was taking pictures with my little like Nikon one-shot digital camera, and they had a photo contest, and I submitted a photo and I won. And I was like, oh, maybe this is something I could be good at. And so I got more and more curious. I upgraded my camera, and then I was like, I want to learn more. Like I want to learn more. And I'm definitely the type of person that is like, if I don't know something, I will move mountains to learn. Or like when I set my sights on something that I want, there is absolutely nothing that is going to get in my way from getting there. That might mean that I have little pivots along the way, but I just go. I hit the gas and I go. So that was like one big thing with getting me into photography. And then producing was really more circumstantial. I was shooting stills. I got married and we started our family, and like just something like a switch kind of like flipped inside me. And I was like, you know what? I have this baby. I don't want to like carry all this gear anymore. Like something creatively like just didn't feel connected as much anymore. And then like at the time I was working with other photographers too still, while I was also doing my own work, and they always had producers. And I was like, this could be something, because this is a beautiful blend of business and creative.
Mhm.
And, I have heard, maybe you've heard this too in your career as a producer, but like, there's nothing really, like, that's not creative. Producing isn't creative. And I would like hard disagree with that.
Right.
uh, hard disagree. Same thing with business. Like, business isn't creative. It's like, it's incredibly creative when
Absolutely.
you reframe it. So yeah, I had a baby, and just like things shifted, and I was like, I'm going to blend my background in business and economics, take my education and like put it to work a little bit, and put my producer hat on while still serving the creatives that are actually like creating the work. So I can be creative in a business way. And so that was more of a circumstantial thing that made me shift. And then, as I progressed in my career and matured in my career as well, I had that itch to like, okay, I don't want to work for somebody else anymore. I want to work for myself. Started in my production company. When I started this production company, we were non-exclusively representing directors and DPs around the globe. And my partner, I didn't know I was going to have a partner in this business. A friend of mine was like, I met this girl. She's new to the area. I think you guys should have a talk. I think you guys should like get to know each other. And I'm like, all right. So I went, I had coffee with this girl, and I came back from that coffee, and I told my friends at the production company I was working with at the time, I was like, I'm starting a business with this person, and I'm going to be quitting my job here. It's just like,
Wow.
I knew. So that was like more of an intuitive example of, how some of these shifts and how some of these decisions were made. It's like, I knew, and I listened. And that
Yeah.
can be really hard for a lot of people to do. It's hard for me to do sometimes too.
How do you, this is such a great like pivot to kind of like the business side of it. Obviously you were working for another company. You probably, felt like you could do this yourself or better, or, everybody kind of has their own moat to like, well, why they start their own company. Can you describe like it's interesting, like the co-founder type of like relationship and the importance of like partnerships and all of that. Can you kind of describe what it was for you, and like how you even jumped so quickly? Because I feel like I don't even know if I could just meet somebody one day and just say like, hey, I'm going to partner with you.
Yeah.
Can you describe like the
Yeah.
importance of it, as well as like how you just knew about this particular like relationship? And did it
Yeah.
pan out well? It's like the
It
other
did.
thing.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, good, good.
She's still my best friend.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, the business is no longer open. I can talk a little bit about that. But
Sure.
as far as like, and it's so funny because I tell my clients all the time, especially if I have a client like a director or even a photographer that comes to me and they're like, I want to explore getting representation. I'm like, do not be the person that talks to somebody once and like go all in and like say yes.
Right.
But here I am. I do that.
Yeah.
I do that. So I don't know. I don't know, Jens. It's a weird thing, and it's hard to articulate, but it's like, you ever have a conversation with someone, and someone that maybe you meet for the first time, and maybe it's a client, maybe it's a friend of a friend, maybe it's a colleague or someone in the industry, and you walk away from that conversation and it just feels correct, and it just feels
Mhm.
right, and it just feels like a yes. I think, when I think about decision making, there's like the mental side of decision making, there's the intuitive side, and then there's like the actual like emotional side of decision making. And usually one of those three things are going to be louder than the other. It's like
Mm.
your structured mind is going to be like, no, no, no. Or it'll say like, yes, 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 because, but your emotional side might be like one thing saying yes and one thing might be saying no. But in moments like that, like when I met up with, her name's Mel, when I met up with Mel, it was like all channels were online saying like, yes. So I don't know where it comes from, but when that happens, I just act and I move.
Mm.
And it's interesting too, because when it comes to making decisions and you have these three things kind of like battling for your attention of like, do this or don't do this. I think about like, there are so many times, like everybody has their own set of like personal values, professional values, right? So many times you make a decision that may not be completely aligned with your values and you feel it, like you feel it in your body, or you start to feel like tension, or you start to feel like maybe this wasn't the right thing, right? When we make decisions that go against those values. And so I guess when all three, mental, emotional, intuitive, are saying yes, it is always aligned with the values that I have. So it kind of just makes sense.
What were some of the things that like helped you start your business? Because I think, yes, can you, maybe like do the work, but sometimes it's also about like the client sales, like, that whole thing. Were you already doing that prior? Like what was kind of like the jump from, call it, working freelance or working for another company to then like starting your own?
So as a freelancer, I'll just like think back to when I had my photography business. It was just me. I was the bookkeeper. I was the sales rep. I was the photographer. I wore all of the hats. So I got very used to and very comfortable with being in control, which could be a really dangerous thing. So fast forward into the production company. It was called Rogue. And then bringing in a partner into that, it was like, oh, okay, I have to like release some of this control.
Right.
And so that took some navigating. That really took some navigating, and it was not perfect. But looking back in hindsight, it was like, one thing that we did really well was that we identified what our strengths were. I was very much like structure, business, like, okay, I'm going to go figure out how do I make an LLC and how do we make an S Corp election, and like, let's make sure our bookkeeping is done. Let's go find the bookkeeper and hire the bookkeeper. So like, and like invoicing and making sure that all of our people are getting paid. And so that was very much like where my brain was like that's going to be my lane. Where my partner was more like the creative brain. That's what's that? Left side? Right side.
Right side. Yeah. Is creative.
Right side.
Yeah.
Right side.
Yeah.
Right. So she was more right side. And there were times that I was envious that I wasn't more involved with the right side part of the business. I mean, I was involved, but like not like doing it as much as she was. And there were times where I know that she probably felt some envy too, because she wasn't able to completely wrap her head around like the structural side of the business, like the business part of the business. When it comes to being a freelancer, you own a business. If you own a production company, like that's a business. And I think identifying what your strengths are upfront and being totally honest about it is only going to save you time and grief and like, struggle down the line. Outsource what is not in your zone of genius and then take on what is. And some people will argue, well, I'm not really in a position to do that. I can't really outsource stuff right now. But I think there are always creative ways to like titrate dishing stuff off over time.
It's a great distinction that you make, especially with like freelancers. It's obviously just you and you're doing everything. And the kind of when you are maybe more formally working as a business, it's a lot more creative collaboration or partnerships or delegating, and kind of it's managing almost like a team of things versus just managing yourself. Sometimes it's easier to just manage yourself than it is, a team of people. It's like, oh, I could just do this myself. But if you really are trying to grow or scale, sometimes it does take, that kind of village or team to do something.
Totally. And like, I think also having the foresight on like, what do you want? Like, what do you want for this business? What do you want it to look like 5 years from now or 10 years from now? Because you can start making little decisions now that are going to help you like work up to that. And if you're like, I want this to grow to be multiple millions of dollars, or I'm totally fine with my little core group of clients and it just being me, and like, that's it. I don't care about making more than 6 figures a year. I'm good. Having some clarity around that in the purpose, your personal purpose, and then the purpose of the business upfront is only going to help like lay, or at least begin to help you develop a roadmap.
Can you, I want to hit on some of what you just talked about, but before that, just maybe for the audience, can you help educate the audience what a commercial production company even looks like. For some people, they might be in the audience like a videographer or come from film. Maybe they don't really understand the machine of like commercial production. They see the end product or they understand it, but can you describe it as like a production company? Like how does that company operate? Because it's a lot of like hiring or signing directors and all this stuff, which feels very different than like other parts of like creative industry.
I would add to this too, like it's totally fair to not, if you don't know, if you're listening and you're not 100% sure of like what it is, like that's absolutely correct. Because you have you have production companies, you have production services company, like they're different shapes, they're different sizes,
Yeah.
and they can serve a lot of different types of clients. So commercial production company, like traditional commercial production company, is a company that historically would have like a roster of directors that are exclusively signed, that agencies and brands would come to when they have a big campaign that they need a commercial made for, or like some content, video content made to support whatever their strategic goals are. There are exclusive. So that means that the director cannot work for any other production company or really take on their own work that might come to them. Anything that comes to them gets filtered through the production company. And you also have non-exclusive, which is where I think a lot of production companies are heading now, and emerging as, right? Where they will have people listed like on a roster, but it's non-exclusive. There might be rights of first refusal involved, some contracts with language around that, but they can take their own work. They can work with other people. Yeah. And then you have also, I would say that another flavor of this would be a production company that just has like a network where like people will come to them and say like, we have to make this thing. And then you tap into the network. So you don't really have like a roster, but you just tap into a network and you assemble the teams and assemble the crews and share options with them. What else do I want to say on that? Oh, and then you have production services where it's just like you need the whole thing coordinated. Like they're going to do that for you. They don't have the directors or anything like that. It's just they service the whole thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a great framing of like those three things as like distinct buckets, and obviously there's even probably more creative ways that people are doing that. But the first seems to be the most traditional of the when you think of the big commercial company. It's funny actually. When I got into commercial production, I missed that part of the boat because I wasn't really thinking about like the signing the director part. Instead, I went through options 2 and 3, where basically like I had the network, I knew production, and I knew how to get it done. And so people would either come to me because they knew like, oh, Jens can get it done, or, you know, this production company can make it look a certain way and like, you know, feel like that the quality is there. And then I would just have like directors that were friends of mine that were either unsigned or kind of went under the umbrella where it wasn't as exclusive. And then some have been just exclusively production services. And I didn't realize, and we even became almost like production services company to other production companies, which I didn't even know at the time was the thing. So it's kind of interesting to hear, the buckets. Cause I think, at least from my background, I felt like I landed in one of the latter two buckets there. When with your production company, where did you kind of land with that?
Same as you. So we didn't have anybody exclusively. So we had, people that we like represented non-exclusively. And then we would also have people that were not part of our like collective, who would come to us and say like, I have this job. Can you produce it? And so we would just like offer services that way. So that would be photographers, that would be, directors. There's a whole mix, and we were just here for all of it. We're just like, yes, 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 yes. Anything that came in, it was a yes. And we, we're starting to learn what was a no. Where, I was able to really cut my teeth as a freelance producer and then staff producer before opening this company. So I was pretty attuned to red flags to be aware of what we should stay away from, what's good business, what's bad business. But it was so cool because the work could come in so many different ways. We were still learning those things, what's good, what's bad. So it was definitely a journey and a lot of fun.
What's some of your top red flags, I guess? Like what should we all maybe avoid or stay away from?
Oh yeah. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is anybody that's asking for availability and asking for a rate without sending you like enough details on the project. I mean, I've been that person to do that, like as a producer, because we're moving so fast and we there are pressures on us and we just need to see what's available, who's available, what's going on. Maybe the rates, we're asking for rates just to inform our budget and it's not even like a real thing yet,
Right.
But I would never be somebody to submit a bid without the full picture. And if you do, you need to caveat the heck out of it and make sure that you have really, really strong and detailed scope assumptions and considerations included. That's definitely a big one.
Wow.
I mean, I have people where, especially directors, who will not entertain, taking on a job if it's not at a certain budget point and if there's no creative brief established yet. I've seen creative briefs come in from agencies in so many different ways. Like you see like really elaborate, well thought out decks and you're like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then you have like the 4-sentence paragraph in an email. That's the creative brief, So things like that I would look at as red flags. That doesn't mean it's a no. It just means you need to push a little harder. You need to gather more information. You need to think about everything that you are saying yes to or you are moving forward with is going to have a trickle down effect to the people that you're working with too. So you want to make sure you're setting yourself up for success and the crew that's ultimately going to support you in that project.
That's so good. I was like kind of self-reflective there. I was like, I've definitely done that where, just kind of like you're saying, sometimes it happens so fast that you're like literally hitting up sometimes 10 people at the same time to try to see who's available. But it's so true. Like, I mean, there's definitely a better way to accomplish that. What also I love that you kind of got into was a little bit of kind of a crack to like the bidding process. Can you actually just describe that a little bit for the audience, like in terms of like whether it's agency or direct to brand, like what does bidding look like? And afterwards, like how do you go from like that to green light, I guess, or winning the job?
Bidding today is like pretty crazy. I'm sure you are seeing this too, but there's the traditional triple bid where, and this is more commonly a requirement for larger brands and agencies where they have it written into like their code of conduct, like you have to triple bid your vendors, so that they have a cost, they have cost leverage, but also like can make creative decisions against putting people, side by side. But traditionally it would be like, okay, producer project is here. We have a brief. Producer casts a net, requests reels, requests portfolios, passes it along to the creative team. Creative team then whittles it down to, maybe 3 to 5 people that they're interested in. If it is not 3 and it's more closer to like 4 or 5, maybe they do a chemistry call to help them decide who the final 3 that they want to invite to bid are going to be. And then you would have those 3 people are notified, okay, we would like to invite you to bid and submit a treatment. And so from that point, you would have a creative call where the director will get to talk to the creative team, ask any questions about the brief so that they have all the information that they need in order to inform their treatment, which the budget would have to mirror and reflect. Yeah. And then everybody submits their stuff and then they make an award based on who knows the criteria. If it's a budget decision or if it's a creative decision or it's the CEO knows this guy decision. the decision can go a lot of different ways, but that's traditionally how it works. But, what I'm seeing with my clients and what I'm hearing from colleagues too, like the triple bid is like kind of going by the wayside. It's sometimes 4 people, sometimes 5 people. I had one client tell me they were up against 10 people, 10
Wow.
people that they requested to submit a treatment and to submit a bid, which is like, what? What do
Yeah.
you mean? What? And like this was a reputable company, like a well-known brand and a well-known agency. And I was like, wow, okay. And they didn't have that information until they submitted. That would have been a massive red flag for
Red
me,
flag. Yeah.
especially if you're going to spend, hours and hours and hours, or you're bringing in designers and like image researchers and like people to help you write this treatment. Or if you're just doing it on your own, that's a huge time investment and an emotional investment.
I think it's very informative, especially as we kind of deep dive a little bit. I wanted the table to kind of get set a little bit. So I appreciate you going through that. Particularly when it comes to like the triple bid, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, some people are very against, I guess, like even that format. Or maybe some people are taking advantage of it. And I know even like as of recent, there's been like contention between like agencies becoming their own production companies and then becoming one of the like 3 companies bidding it. And so then you're seeing what the other production companies are bidding and could easily just copy it or underbid, or, you have control when you're both the agency and production. Other types of red flags, I guess. But like, I wanted to talk a little bit about that to get your kind of maybe POV on some of that. Like, is this the best way to do it? If not, like maybe some of those kind of like issues that are maybe starting to like come up in the industry.
My take on this, and what's really interesting, I was just talking with a client last week about this. She does a lot of work in Europe, and Germany is now requiring that you want me to bid, you're going to pay me for the treatment time. So they're doing like paid treatments. I know other places have, experimented with that as well. So I could see that being something that becomes more common and maybe adopted, which I hope it is. Honestly, I hope it is.
I do too. Yeah. It seems ridiculous if you think about like how much time and effort. It's one thing if it was just like a, really quick pitch deck that you're like swapping out like logos and images, but like sometimes the creative process it takes, days and like, 10 plus hours. And like, you're not just doing something for the sake of like, it's like you're flushing out creative and at the whim of the person not taking your idea and just like, going with it. But it feels like a lot of time and effort goes into it, not only for the director or the treatment writer or maybe the production, but the production company might be even having to pay for a lot of these things that have just all been assumed as like almost like working costs or like, like just the cost of the industry. But is that fair, I guess, to the company or the director or whoever might be putting in a lot of work and not being compensated for it?
I mean, I think most people think of it as like, this is an investment. And I would never tell somebody to half-ass it.
Yeah.
I would say, give it your all, especially knowing that you're like these brands and these agencies have a sea of options available to them. Like, do not give it 80%, give it 150%.
Totally.
And I know a lot of these companies too, so they look at it as an investment, but will also just like bake into the budget, like to compensate for some of that time, or compensate for some of those expenses, right?
That's if you win, right? Like, I guess.
If you win, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think that is something that could potentially be adopted, but I think that we need some of the big industry voices kind of taking a stand for that in order for that to become more acceptable. I will say this, I was working in-house at an agency, and there was one time where they offered to pay us to deliver. It was like some like creative development that we were doing too, but like we were paid for that time that we could then like trickle down to the people that were going to eventually get the award. The other thing is with the triple bid, I think that like it doesn't make sense under a certain price point It just doesn't make sense. It's so much time for so many people, not just the people that are submitting, but the people that are receiving, like on the agency side. And I was on that side of the table, right? So it's a lot of work to look at all these bids. And it really just doesn't make sense when you think about, like, as an agency person, okay, my billable hour is this much money and is taking me X amount of hours to like extrapolate the information that I need from this, because even if they're going off of an AICP budget template, there's always some nuance. There are always some like differences. It's never truly apples to apples.
Yeah.
And then like for the creative team to then do their pass at it, like that's a lot of billable time
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
a $50,000 to $100,000 job. Not worth it, in my opinion. So I think like an established threshold of like, okay, if this is $250,000 or more, or like $300,000 or more, let's triple bid it. But I think, companies need to establish those guidelines and like just know where they're leaking cash, and they're leaking cash when they shouldn't be.
What do you feel like? I mean, since you've had the agency experience and the production experience as an EP, what is the end goal of the triple bid? Is it the highest form of creative excellence out of the three, or the cheapest bid? Or I'm sure it's a mix of both, but what do you think is like the main goal of something like a triple bid?
The main goal of the triple bid is literally just corporate responsibility. So if you are in a bidding scenario, I would be asking that producer, that agency producer, or that creative director upfront, like, is this going to be a creative decision, or is this going to be a budget decision, or is it going to be a hybrid? Of course, the creative team is going to want to tell you it's going to be a creative decision because that's what they want. And the producer is going to say, no, they want it to be a budget decision. But you're not going to know if you're going to get like an actual true straight answer if you ask that question.
Right.
So the purpose is corporate responsibility, making sure they're doing their due diligence. It's just like if you're going to buy a car. It's like you're going to test drive a few cars before you decide which one you're going to go with. And you're going to see like, okay, which one is offering me more of what I want? Which one feels the most connected to us as a company and the goals of this campaign? Like, so I would love to say that all of these things are being weighed when it comes to deciding who is going to get the award. That's not always the case, though.
Sure.
It's not always the case. So I think that agencies and brands are using the triple bid as a leverage point, because there have also been situations where they've said, we really like your work, but your budget is too high against the other people that are bidding. Can you come down? So they're using it as leverage there, right? If you can meet these numbers, then like we can greenlight this thing. If it's a creative miss, they're probably not going to come back to you and say like, okay, you are the best priced option, but your creative is off. They're not going to come back to you and say like, make this creative better. It's usually just it's the other way around.
Like when you get the like denial letter, do you get the reason like why always, or is it just up to the?
Yeah. This is such a pain point for so many people. I would say 75% of the time, people would come back if they did not win and say like, hey, I'd love to know like what didn't feel right, or what led to your decision, or, I just need information to help me going forward improve. And so I'm better next time this comes around. 75% of people do that. 25% of people, I think, just like don't give a shit or like don't think to ask. The people that ask, I would say 50% of the time they're going to get an answer. It depends on that producer. It really depends on, or whoever their point of contact is. It depends on them. It depends on how busy they are. And like at this point, like they're full steam ahead on the job. Like they're like, that is where their attention is 150%. It's not about like, and it's wild because this really is like one of those points where like humanity is kind of pulled out of the whole process. And like the realization that like you are a human and I am a human and you have feelings and you are running a business and so am I. And like we are all in the same industry and trying to make great things together. So why not offer the context and offer an explanation as to why this outcome was the way it was.
Right.
It will only improve the relationship, deepen that relationship, enrich it, and help that other person.
Absolutely.
And I think that just like goes, people don't think about that. And it's hard to keep that at the forefront of your mind when the speed in which you have to work as a producer is what it is. So I would say the really great producers, the ones that are able to, like, at least some of the time, like, keep that in mind and remember, like, there's a person on the other side of this. The more that we can do that and encourage each other to do that, the better for literally everyone and like the industry as a whole.
So good. Before we kind of wrap up this part of it around like bidding, do you have any kind of insight or opinion around agencies also being their own production companies and being a part of the system or the bid, the triple bid?
The agency that I worked at, our parent company was a global PR firm. We were the creative ad agency. We had in-house production, but we were never like bidding along with, people that we were inviting in.
Oh, good. Yeah.
But I have heard about that happening. And my initial reaction to that is like, ick, like, ugh, like, I don't like that at all. Like, that just sounds ethically not aligned.
Right.
Yeah. It's
especially
like, if you want to do the job, just do the job. Like, if you think you can do the job, just do the job. Why are you wasting everybody else's time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a proponent of maybe getting rid of the triple bid system that wouldn't even have that problem to begin with, because I don't see a world where in the future more production companies don't become their own agencies or vice versa. Like, I think that's just where we're headed versus like that there were independent, like really great production companies and really great creative agencies and so on. I think the more we go, it's going to condense and probably become. And so, I think of it more at that level, that the idea of a triple bid, or like that this system currently maybe worked for a time. I don't know if it's the best system, like for both the production company or the agency. I do agree with that there should be some sort of maybe process to like test driving the car or knowing that you want to work with said collaborator. But, the film industry doesn't necessarily do that. Like, you're not like, there's some version of like you're making a treatment or whatever, like, but then there's like paid pilots, or there's things that kind of like come out of it for you to know if you want to like keep going with that thing, or invest in that project. So I just wonder if it's doing more harm than it is good. But at the same time, like, I've definitely been a part of it and have benefited from it when we would bid and understand that. But is it maybe unnecessarily like, causing tension or issue when you
agree.
Just, like, show your whole budget and show like everything and it's just like all exposed? I don't know. Like, what?
There's a lot more trust. There's a lot more trust present.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on this, Jens. I think like the triple bid process, what it does introduce is a lot of potential mistrust or judgment. And if it's a sole source, like if they, instead of submitting a treatment before deciding who you're going to go with, you just did like a deeper creative call.
Right.
So, because if you're vibing with a person, the person really knows how to present themselves and they really know how to speak articulately about their process and how they would approach this job. They're going to know. And like, people know after the creative call, like, no matter what. I can't really point to many experiences at all where people had a vibe on who they liked after the creative call and then didn't go with that person after they looked at their treatment.
Right.
It's like they already know.
I don't know if you've seen that article recently that came out about how 71% of film budgets go over budget. It's crazy to think that, like, this has become like a standard in the industry and you just kind of have to keep going with it. I don't know if you've heard of Saturation, but Saturation is the next gen budgeting tool that you can use to streamline all of your operations and your budgets and your finances on a project. It gives you really easy collaborative tools, and you're able to bring in your budgets and your actuals and your expenses all in one place. If you haven't tried it yet, go to saturation.io, sign up for a free account. It's really easy and quick to sign up. The next thing I wanted to talk about was kind of maybe helping define in the commercial industry the role of a producer and the role of an executive producer. I feel like for most people, the term is very vague, and maybe even rightfully so, just because it's kind of become a catch-all phrase to some, especially, even in film, like you could get an EP credit for acting in the film, or, and there's like there's been a watering down of the term that I think that's happened. But maybe even furthermore, as you are an executive producer, there's probably even a more watered down version for that term as well. Can you help educate us on, at least in the commercial industry? I know it could be different in other types of industries, role of producer and role of executive producer.
This is like, that's clear as mud, because you have an EP, you have producers, you have bidding producers, you have line producers, you have creative producers. Like we have all of the producers, like all of the different kinds of producers. But when I look at it just kind of like high level EP and producer, I think of the producer as the one that is like the leading the physical production coordination of it all. Maybe they're involved with bidding if there's not a bidding producer. They're assembling all of the crew. They are getting all the logistics together. They have their own production team depending on the size of the job. They're just like the wedding planner of it all. They're like bringing it all together, making it all happen. And they're collaborating with the director. They're collaborating with the photographer. They're collaborating with the agency or the client. And so they are like the central focal point to getting us to the shoot day. EP, when you think about it, so like I played an EP in two different roles. When I had my production company, EP, I was more like, we were non-exclusive. So that's even like a little bit different than if I was an EP in an exclusive structure. But if it was exclusive, like that EP is like that director's point person. That's their safe person. That's the person that's, helping them to grow in their career. That's the person that's strategizing with them on like, okay, this is what we're going to do to promote you and to who, and we're having meetings with these people, and we're going to try to sell you over here. And then when the job comes up, they're interacting with the client. They are making sure everybody is taken care of. They are answering questions. They're putting more of like business strategy hat on because they're client facing. Agency side. So I worked at I EP'd at a creative production company. I would say that had a network. So we did not have a roster, and I managed all of our producers. So I was the person kind of like making final decisions and also supporting all of the producers as they were producing all of their individual jobs and assignments, and going to set, kissing babies, shaking hands, entertaining the client, all of that kind of stuff. And so there's more of like a strategic business development almost role, I think, as an EP. And then there's also like the talent growth role as an EP. Yeah.
Is it common, and maybe this is a misconception I even have, that an EP is usually somebody that already works full-time for the company or is like a company owner? Like, are there such things as like freelance EPs, or is it traditionally like in-house?
Yeah. There's freelance EPs. I have friends that are freelance EPs.
And so they would come in for specifically what you're talking about, like maybe either talent development or like kissing babies and like managing client relationships and stuff like that. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It seems like it's a maybe like a very like underappreciated role, because I think you don't realize how much the client might be like needing or looking for some, like the hand holding, if you will, that happens. And sometimes when the producer that's managing the project or the director that's obviously like trying to like focus on the creative of that project, somebody that's there to kind of make sure client is happy, and block and tackle sometimes, because sometimes there could be creative differences or whatever it might be, or notes, and how you can translate some of that. It seems like it's like unsung hero of the set that maybe most below the line people might not even realize or understand what's happening. They might just see it as like, oh, look at that person, like has the life, like, is just doing the client relationship, but maybe doesn't realize the tension or sometimes the importance of how we're all having a job right now because this person is making sure the client is happy. Do you feel that way, or would you sum that differently?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that people that have done a little bit of their own producing, like, get a little bit of a taste of it, but it's like, holy moly, it's a lot. It's a lot because not only are you so in the weeds of every single minute detail of the whole project, which if you have multiple days and multiple locations and you have video and you have photo and like maybe there's aerials that like you got a lot of complexity creatively, that's one thing. But then you have the complexity of like needing to be the avocado. There's that saying of like, I'm not an avocado. I can't make everybody happy. But you actually have to be the avocado as a producer. It's like if the director's pissed, it's like, okay, we are tackling that calmly, patiently, understanding what their needs are. And we are deciding what does the agency need to hear, what don't they need to hear. And then we hear from the agency side what they're not very happy about or what they want to see done differently. And then we are deciphering, okay, what are we sharing with the director and like, what are we not sharing with the director?
Right.
So that is an art in itself. And being able to communicate and relay difficult information, like on top of having everything, holding everything else up in your brain as it's all going on, like all at once, is a skill that deserves all of the awards because it is not easy to get to a point of being able to do it really well without burning out, without having a mental breakdown, without crying every day. So it could be really, really hard. And the other thing too is like all of the different personalities that are at play, not just of the director or the agency or the client, but of all of your heads of department. Everybody always needs something from the producer.
Yeah.
And you're getting hit at every angle all the time. And so you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as a producer and learn how to nonviolent communication is like one of the best tools that anybody can hone as a producer as well. Yeah.
It's crazy to think, I mean, like it kind of comes with the job or the territory where, you get the praises and you get the shit all at the same time. So like if you do something great, obviously everybody loves you. And then, something goes wrong, whether it's your fault or not, you still have to own that like buck stops with you and you have to like, and it until somebody sits in that seat, I don't think somebody will fully understand or realize the tension, the breakdowns, the managing of the personalities is probably the biggest thing when you're talking about at that, like multiple levels and multiple webs of like relationships and relational hierarchies that are at play in a live or ongoing set. Whether you're talking about the client or you're talking about the director, or you're talking about a department head, just so much can happen. It's such a high pressured environment. Usually when everybody's a professional, it goes very well, but you just don't know. And you can't always predict like, what may or may not happen. So I totally agree with you. I think that's why I love like talking with other producers about it, just because it feels like therapy sometimes, because they're the only person that would really get it or understand it. In a lot of ways.
Yeah. And look, like there are producers out there, I'm sure you know some too. There are producers out there who like, we talked about like the human side of things. They don't care about that. They're just there to like check off the boxes and get things done. And like, if you don't get what you want, then like, that's your freaking problem. Like, don't bother me with it. I've got bigger fish to fry right now. Like there are people that have the wrong attitude. And then there are the people that are like really, really care about their crew, really, really care about their teams. And they really care about the client and what the client needs are, because there's a lot of fear on the client agency side. They're making a massive investment in something that they think and hope are going to convert in the way that they needed to convert. Right. So there's fears and tensions like all over the place. And I think until you when I was a baby producer, I was always like, crew advocate, that client.
Mm-hmm.
like I'm here to make sure you guys have everything you need. I will make it happen. And as I grew into the role and I went client side, I was like, oh, yeah, there's something over here that actually needs attention to. And so I think the best producers are the ones that really understand both sides. They know what levers that they can pull at different times, and they can, know where they can pull from and replace. And just like keep the vibe chill and happy. And that comes from having a deep understanding of all of the different sides.
Do you have any kind of like horror stories that you feel comfortable sharing around either something that like didn't go well on set, or relationships didn't quite like, in how you've had to like maybe like manage something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
And obviously whatever you can speak about. I know sometimes it's hard when there's real people involved, but
no, yeah. I actually wrote a newsletter about this like a month ago. And by the way, I will say this. I think it's really important for people, regardless of your role, well, especially if you're in a leadership position, if you're head of a department or something, to lead with vulnerability and to be transparent and to be open. So I share this story with that in mind. Okay. This was a commercial, the biggest commercial that I had produced at the time. I was in-house at an agency, so agency producer, basically like EP, agency EP. It was a $1.2 million commercial. And there was like, long story short, we were shooting at a retail location during the day, which you don't really get opportunities like that usually because they are operating during the day and customers are coming in. But we had the opportunity to shoot during the day instead of an overnight. The entryway to this building was, there was like a 3-lane road in front of it, where people would pull off and pull into the store. As far as I was concerned, as a EP who worked really, really closely with the production company's producer, really closely, we had a safety plan of like, okay, we're going to close off the entrance to the store. We're going to have police. We're going to have the flashing lights. We're going to have signs. We're going to have all the things that people know that they can't just turn off of this busy road into the store. That plan did not work because cars started piling up, and it was a hill. So there were cars coming over the hill before you would get to the entrance. And so they're coming over the hill and then seeing cars stopped in front of it that were trying to pull in. So it was something didn't work with that plan. I'm sitting in the people mover in the air conditioning with the client and with my boss at the agency. And this client's face just went white because she's seeing cars piling up. She's hearing honking. And she, at the time, was recently promoted in her role. And we were at their flagship store where anybody could have, that worked there, could have come by and see the mess that was starting to happen. And it was becoming dangerous. And so client's face goes white. The next thing I know, she jumps up, runs out, waving her arms, like trying to direct traffic. And I'm like, whoa, what's unfolding here? Like, what's happening? It was happening so quickly that I couldn't even get to my producer or to the production manager to be like, we need to do something about this to make this a safer situation. Yeah. And so I knew it was kind of like starting to implode. I wanted to get that client away from the road. Number one. And so we're doing all of this. There's a massive wet down happening at the same time. Like, it was just like, boom, chaos. And after the fact, we sorted it all out and it ended up all being okay. We were able to direct traffic. We brought more police in, and all of this was happening like within 10 or 15 minutes. Like, it was not a long period of time, but like it felt like an eternity. And at that point, I knew like that client wanted nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me, because everyone was looking at me to, why did this happen? And instead of me looking at my producer or my production manager, like, why did this happen? I had to take that on. I had to take that on. I had to have some hard conversations, and I had to work really freaking hard to earn that client's trust back. Thank God over time we were able to do that, and they came back and they did even bigger commercials with us the following year. But
Wow.
I learned a big lesson that day. In talking with my boss, like she just had to say one word to me. She gave me a look and I was like, I'm going to lose my job. But she said one word to me. Well, two words. She said, Lisa, optics. It wasn't on the client side, it wasn't a logistical problem. It was an optics problem. So I learned a lot that day. Even like as an experienced producer, that's like you have your plan A, B, C, D, like, and we mobilized very quickly and we resolved everything. But it could have been really dangerous. There could have been accidents. People could have been hurt, and this client could have lost her job.
Wow.
And so it was just a lot, and it was a lot. And like just the word optics, I was like, oh yeah, okay. Like I need to start thinking that way a little bit more, like going forward. Of the optical side of things from what the client sees. So the client doesn't know anything else that's going on. Like they don't know.
Right. Yeah.
We shield all of that and they don't need to know.
Yeah.
It was just a really big learning experience for me.
I really love like what you were even saying, or like what she said to you about the optics part of it, because it's so true. Sometimes at the end of the day, it is just that you're doing your best, obviously, and people don't know that. So yeah, no, thanks for sharing. Vulnerability is like a hard thing, I think, for people in general, but like especially in leadership positions where you feel like you have to put on the perfect kind of hat on. That's why people are working with me, is because I'm flawless, or I'm going to get it done with no issues or no problems. And the reality is like almost every production will have some sort of problem. It's really how do you react to these problems and problem solve and work through it and make sure you get it to the end and it doesn't just stop at the problem. And I'm with you. I think more and more people should talk about some of those things, and it might even help somebody else, that might undoubtedly will probably go through a fire or, whatever it might be, and not know maybe how to react to it in the moment.
Just from that experience, I learned like one great question to ask, like before the shoot, even on the PPM, not to like dampen the mood or anything, but to say like, okay, what's your biggest worry or concern going into the shoot tomorrow? And then if they're honest enough to tell me what it is, I can manage it.
Yeah.
I know what to look out for. I know what to say. I know how to support them.
When you were running the production company, what would you say was success in the company? Like, how did you measure that? And, is it financial? Is it the amount of projects? Is it like, how did you define success for a production company?
For us, it was not financial. I think I'm okay to speak for both of us there. We wanted to make a shit ton of money. We really did. But we were in business for close to 3 years before we closed it down for a lot of different reasons. I had twins. She moved to Amsterdam. Like it was just time. We wanted to make a lot of money, but I think success for us was the growth that we each individually had and then had as a unit, and building something and problem solving and making the connections that we made, which we still have today and are still, collaborating with people that we met in the seeds that we planted back in the days of the production company that we're still working with today. So for us, I think the success felt like growth and learning. But I think a lot of production companies, like, that's actually a really great question. I would love to poll the production companies of the world. Like, what's their measure for success? I'm sure revenue is going to be a part of that conversation, but I would really hope that another part of the conversation is in helping their artists grow and to help make a positive impact in the world through the work that they're able to create.
I would love to see you do that poll, because I feel like when I was doing my production company, there was kind of maybe just generic success metrics that you're like, oh yeah, making a lot of money or whatever it might be. But without like success metrics, there wasn't proper goal setting. And so you're kind of just it's like you're like drinking out of a fire hose sometimes. And it's like projects are coming to you and you're just taking it on and you're like bidding it. But, I, at the time, in hindsight now, looking at like, did my production company have any like goals for the year or success metrics of like what determined if we were like on track or not on track? And I can't really honestly answer that other than like saying like, I felt like it was successful because we were busy, but is that the only metric to the success? Now with the kind of like the tech startup life, I feel like I'm having to like think about every part of our business through that lens. And I'm really grateful that I am, because it is helping us with measured growth. But I didn't know if there was in your practice or with now probably very connected to a lot of production companies, if that's been measured or if that takes on like a certain type of success metric.
I would imagine that, the production companies that are thriving have something installed like that. I would hope that they do. Looking back, we had our production company back in like 2015. So like that wasn't even on our radar. We were flying the plane as we were building it,
right?
Pretty much. So
exactly.
like we weren't, and it was just us. Like we weren't thinking about it. But if I opened another production company today, or in my coaching practice, if I had I have people that work for me too as contractors. I'm making sure that they feel valued. I'm making sure that I'm asking, what resources do you need? I'm making sure that I think the strength of a business, number one, you need to be solving a need that's out there. If you have a business and it's not entirely solving a need and you're not very clear about the problem that you're solving for, you're not going to go very far. Number two, the satisfaction and the comfort that your employees have is a very, very close second. If your people aren't motivated, if your people don't feel resourced, if your people don't feel supported, if your people don't feel like they can see where they're going, there's no trajectory for them, they don't have a path laid out for them, it's going to lead to resentment. It's going to lead to feeling disconnected from the work. It's going to lead to maybe not the highest levels of productivity. So those are things that I would be taking really, really seriously if I was to open another production company or if I brought on like more employees. Make sure that you have a clear problem that you can very clearly articulate how you're going to solve it for them, and make sure that your people are supported and know exactly where they're headed. There's a growth plan for them.
That's so good. Yeah. I'm sure that's true for any business.
Yeah.
The kind of the last thing that I want to like touch on, at least from the commercial production side, and I want to talk more about like your coaching practice. Like, does the commercial industry, is the state of the industry in chaos, or does it have a clear defined like future, like just with everything going on? And that can go anywhere, AI to just how production companies are run and all that stuff. Do you kind of have like a hot take on this, or?
Here's my point of view on this. State of commercial production industry. We have experienced so much change in such a short amount of time and have been pushed to adapt rapidly to circumstances, pandemic, COVID-19, to circumstances like strikes, political circumstances, economic circumstances, inflation, costs of equipment. There's so many prongs to this, right? Circumstantial prongs.
Totally.
And the thing that drives advertising, which is where commercials, get their work from, advertising is being driven by consumer demand. Consumer demand is evolving and changing every single day because of these same circumstances. Maybe not like strikes, but like political, economic, all of that kind of stuff. So you have advertising over here that is trying to keep up with the rapidly changing demands of consumers and how they like to consume media, how they like to buy, how they like to engage transactionally. And then you have production over here trying to make sense of whatever's going going on the agency side and trying to adapt to the agency's needs, who are adapting to the client's needs, who are adapting to the consumer's needs. And so it's nuts. It's crazy.
Totally.
And then you're also introducing here the emergence of new technology. And so a lot of people in commercial production have taken the stance of like, the sky is falling and I might become obsolete, and it looks like the faucet has turned off from a work perspective, when I don't agree that that is the case. There is work out there. I see what my clients are doing and what they're getting. But the missing link here, the missing piece, is that commercial production professionals, if you are someone that has to go out and get work, whether it's a production company, whether you're an artist representative or an agent, whether you're a one-man band and you're a director, DP, and producer all in one, like if you are out there trying to talk to clients to bring in work for yourself, the missing link is that we need to evolve how we are approaching the business side of things. And the root of that, the thing that is going to set you apart from the flood that has entered the freelance space because of all of those other things, is your confidence, your leadership, your authority. It's just assumed that your work is good. It's assumed that you have the technical aptitude, confidence, leadership, authority, and knowing how to talk to people and knowing how to get information, the information that you need so that you can then react to them, putting on a business strategy hat to where they feel safe, seen, heard, and believe that you are the person for them. I'm going to take a breath for a second. What else do I want to say on that? So there is work out there. How we have to go about getting it is what is shifting and what is changing. And we've talked about the human element a few times today, and it's really tapping back into that. And just learning how to position yourself and knowing how to message in order to keep up with this rapid evolution and these rapid changes. And there's just so much fear that it's like you have to just get to the point of turning some of the noise off, leaning into these uncomfortable feelings that you might have, and start to get creative about how you're going to go about creating your own opportunities going forward, which takes experimenting. It takes bravery. So yeah, I think we're just in a massive kind of nebulous, like, inflection point. And while it may feel like there have been many inflection points, I think it's all kind of coagulating into like one big industry level shift.
What do you feel like that might look like as an industry? Are like budget sizes going to get smaller, or is the way that creativity going to look different because of maybe some of the like changes or advancements? Like every generation has kind of had a different take on it, right? Like that UGC was going to take over, and that wasn't going to be any more type of like high quality production or things like that. Do you see anything like that as like a trend, or is there always going to be a place for the way that the commercial industry exists today?
So when I entered this industry, budgets being too small was always a conversation. Like that's always been a present conversation, like not enough money or budgets are shrinking. Like, and I've been in this industry for close to 2 decades. So that's always been a thing. But, now we have things that are going on. We have, there are more and more and more efficiencies. But just like when COVID, if you can hear my dog barking, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Even like with the emergence of like remote production, that wasn't a thing,
Right.
5 years ago. Like LED wall, the volume, like that wasn't a thing like a few years ago. So we're finding efficiencies where it's like, no, you don't have to go to the actual location and spend all the money on location related expenses. We could just do this in a studio. And now with AI, there are efficiencies as well, especially on the post side and on the pre-production planning side of things. So the amount of time is going to take for us to produce commercial content is shrinking. And there's probably going to be a lag time with, agencies and brands adjusting to the fact that they don't need to, it's like a time versus money thing. It's like, okay, you're putting in this much time, it should cost less money. If you're spending less time, it should cost less money. So yeah, it's like reaction off of a reaction off of a reaction off of a reaction. One big opportunity is where, we are creative people. This is a creative industry. And when we're faced with challenges, instead of bemoaning the challenges and talking and complaining and kind of like going into, I'm in a freeze mode, or I'm in a stuck mode, or the world is ending mode, tap into the creativity to say, how can I be better? How can we be faster? How can we meet the demand and how it's showing up to us today? There's creativity in that.
My hot take on this is, I think there's going to be a future where it's exactly what you're saying. The ones that are bold, confident will obviously shine through like whatever innovation or changes or that kind of happen throughout period in time. I think one of the interesting things that is going to happen, particularly in this next generation of like post AI, we're living in one of the craziest times in life. I think one of the things that might change even for our industry is the value of time is going to look very different, because I don't think it's going to be time-based value like it was like pre 2024 or 2025. Like, I think it's all going to be based on output. I think because time as a commodity is not going to exist after something that could be done in microseconds that would have taken us years to do, or sometimes months or years to do, and not just in our industry, in every industry, like across the world. Research is now going at an exponential scale. I mean, we might cure cancer now that was taking decades to do. And so the time part of it is, I think, the thing that is actually going to evaporate, and then you can't put your value based on time anymore. And I think that's what's going to really change, and people have to learn and know how to adapt to that. That's my hot take. I don't know if that will be the thing, but I think that's how it's going to change.
That resonates for sure. I would agree with that. So the price being based on the value of the output, and that's going to be measured by okay, historically, what has an output or deliverable like this actually converted to in sales for my company, and then try to do value-based pricing based on the overall outcome.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Fun. What a time to be alive, man.
It is unbelievable. I just get so excited waking up every day just to know that there's something new. It's scary, obviously, too, but it is very, very exciting. And if you can kind of be on board with it and see how it, with anything, with great power comes great responsibility. And there's that whole kind of tension that's there, but it is an exciting time. There's no generation has gone through the amount of advancements and change that we're living through right now.
Bonkers. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool.
Even down to, I was talking with somebody else just recently about, I met this guy the other day, just being kind of in Silicon Valley, who leads up AI at a certain company. And I was just telling him how I just had a son. And my biggest question now is how do you raise a child post AI? What are the things that you're instilling into your children as things that should be important, or maybe even career-wise, what you should go into? Because I think I would have said something different to my child 5 years ago versus now, in terms of maybe the job or the role, or because I think most nominal tedious jobs are going to evaporate in the next couple of years. And how do you adapt to that? And what do you teach the next generation to learn? And he told me, it's not necessarily about using AI or just doing something that might get replaced with AI. What he's trying to instill in his kids is how do you manage AI? And that he still thinks that there's going to be this role of the human that will be over encompassing whatever operations that it's taking on. And that's the shift that he's made in maybe that doesn't look like a specific role, but like at least how he's instilling principles, and how he's thinking about like at least educating his children. So a lot of the things that he's like introducing to his child is around like how do you see yourselves over it, or like that you're still the hierarchical, like, because he said this, like, I know my children are going to be smart because I'm smart, but no matter how smart you are not going to be smarter than AI. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no amount of information that we will ever in a lifetime be able to. So it's not necessarily like who's going to be smarter or what's going to be smarter, but it's going to be more of the hierarchical kind of like value chain that's there. Like, humans are obviously to us like more valuable than comes AI, and how do you kind of instill the principle around managing what that looks like. And I just thought that was so fascinating that that's how he was like thinking about, and it made me, have to like just challenge myself a little bit about like, okay, like this is here. We're going to have to like embrace it. It's not going away.
Yeah.
And yeah, you got to learn like how it is going to be.
But also how to be responsible, like how to be a responsible person while, living alongside this technology, especially for kids. Like you have kids that are like cheating on their tests and having AI do their homework, right? So there's like a responsibility and a maturity that I think young people are going to be forced to step into a lot earlier than before AI existed.
And that even happened for, I think, like my generation with the internet, like the amount of maturity or like things that I was knowing at a certain age that like maybe my parents' generation didn't. And I'm sure it's going to even be more accelerated at that level. I know we're running short on time here. I do want to talk about your coaching practice, particularly how you got into coaching. How does one make the shift from producing to coaching? One of the things that I love about like what you're doing is, and I think it's the future of everybody, is that like, that you are the brand in a lot of ways, and how you are marketing and how you are putting yourself out there is, I think, how everybody is going to have to do. It's why I've started this podcast, is to get in front of camera more. It's going to be creator led. It's going to be founder led. So you're doing it in a really amazing way. And I'm curious, have you always thought that way? And, or did you have to make a shift after going into coaching? And how did you get into coaching? I just want to talk about this as like a segment, because this is very fascinating, because I really love how people have side hustles or different ways that they can like use their expertise than maybe the non-traditional ones. And for maybe somebody else that might be thinking about wanting to do something like this, I think you've just done a really great job of like a niche that nobody probably would have thought about.
I didn't even know that coaching was really a thing before the pandemic. I had heard the term like life coach before, and whenever I would hear that, I was like, oh, that's for broken people. Like broken people need life coaches. So I hired my first coach in 2020, and I had hit a point in my career. I was working agency side at the time, where I felt really disconnected from myself. I felt really disconnected from my family. I felt so closely identified to the work. And I was just all kinds of messed up because of that. So I brought on my first coach, and I experienced such insane transformation and just like a reconnection to who I am, to what I'm here to do, to my values, to all of those things. It was such a beautiful experience and taught me a lot. And I grew so much that I walked away from that engagement saying, I'm a coach. Like I've been a coach this whole time. I've always been the person to champion the people around me. I've always been the person that people come to for advice, career advice, life advice, like all of the things. I've always been the person to kind of like rally and share information and help, want to connect people. I like to say that I'm a super connector. I always want to see people succeed. I'm like, I've been a coach this whole time. I just don't have the formal training around it. And so after that, I was like, I'm going to do that. So I decided, and I just like made that happen.
Wow.
And I went and I got my certification in training, did really rigorous training in coaching. And I was coaching on the side while I was EPing for a company in New York for a few years. And so I was doing it all on the side. And at first I thought I'm going to serve women like me, women in leadership positions, high achieving people. They have issues with time management. They have issues with like identifying with the work. Like I wanted to help people that experience some of the things that I had experienced as a leader. And then I had this like aha of, a year into doing that where I was like, wait a minute, no. And working with my coach, I helped, figure this out. I have all of these people around me in the industry that I could be doing this for and that I could be serving and that I could be helping. There is a reason that I am where I am and I'm in the position that I am in. There's a purpose for me beyond being an executive producer, a leader, a producer, like anything like that, anything in commercial production. And that is to help the people that are in this industry. And so I pivoted to working with commercial filmmakers and photographers. And then it just kind of exploded from there. And it got so big that I had to make a big decision to leave my full-time role as an EP or, hold myself back from the potential that is over here on the other side. And at that point, I felt like, the fulfillment that I get from doing this work, the coaching and consulting work, is exceeding the fulfillment that I'm getting as an EP. So I made that shift into doing this full time. And then as far as like promoting myself and marketing and being founder led and like my face is the brand, hell no, I did not know like how to do that. No, I never like, I look back at like Instagram and I used Instagram as a tool for my job. Like I'm looking for directors, I'm looking for like cinematographers, I'm looking for photographers on there. Right. I never showed my face. So there was a big thing I had to work for with getting really comfortable with being visible. And it was so uncomfortable and it forced me to be vulnerable, which I always was very resistant to because of the discomfort around vulnerability. And like, I remember some of the first times I started showing my face on, like to promote coaching or what I was doing or to try to like bring people in, like I would have to write myself scripts. And I would like read a line and then press pause and I'd check the lines again. Then I'd get back on and I'd record it. And I look back on some of those videos and I was like, oh, I was so like nervous and I was so rigid, but showing up and doing it every single day. Now it's just like, bah, here I am. This is me, unapologetically me, unfiltered me. It's easy for me now.
Oh, it's so great. I think one of the misconceptions that kind of happens is that when you're in a creative industry or you're in filmmaking or commercials, that you're naturally just going to be good at any kind of content creation and not realizing it's definitely a different muscle that you're like, maybe never had to like stretch. For some people that are in front of the camera, sure, like if they've acted or something, but I know for me, like I've always been behind the camera as a producer. So this is definitely a very different muscle. And I agree with you. I think that's what I'm trying to overcome is just showing up and doing it, regardless of if it's good or not, or great or not. Like it seems like the more you can kind of put your reps in, it's like anything, right? Your first commercial is probably not going to look as great as the commercial that you've done now, or the photo that you took like 20 years ago, and you're refining it. Can you for anybody that might be interested in what your services have to offer, can you describe like who the ideal person is that like could benefit from like the coaching practice? What was interesting for me, and I actually forgot to even tell you this, but after we did our first video together, or the one that you had talked about, somebody reached out to me and is like, hey, should I go with Lisamarie's like coaching practice? Like I've actually been thinking about it for a while. I was like, yes, absolutely. And maybe there's people on the sideline who don't know or probably have seen it, or maybe not. Like who is this for?
So this is a great question. It's for commercial filmmakers and photographers. Most of the people that I work with are directors, cinematographers, producers, photographers. I've had makeup artists reach out. I've had wardrobe stylists reach out. And the concepts and the things that I teach would translate to those roles too. So those are not off the table. But the most commonly, I'm serving like directors, DPs, cinematographers, producers, photographers. And as far as like where in the career, I would say anybody in my container right now has between 7 and 15 years of experience. So that's kind of like my nice little core like niche that I've carved out. So you have done commercial work, you've gotten commercial work, you're not emerging or green or brand new to the industry. Like you've done this for a while and you're starting to see that there are some things that are not working as well as they used to in your business because of all of the aforementioned things we talked about. And you're coming to me to where I'm going to like, I go so deep into your business. It's like you have a fractional EP at your fingertips. So we are talking about money. We are talking about rates. We are talking about selling. We are talking about marketing, positioning, strategy, all of the things so that I can help you get in the room, book jobs, and double your business. That's what we're doing. And I'm able to do that in such a unique and a different way than I think other business coaches out there. One, because it's so niche and I have worked in this industry for so long. I understand this industry, but I've been on every side of the table and I can bring all of those insights to the actual strategy that we use in order to get you moving in the right direction instead of staying stuck and getting forgotten.
Definitely check that out. We'll post obviously all the links in the description. Lisamarie, I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to talk with me here, and it's just gone by. I can't believe it's already been an hour and a half. Before we leave, there's one thing that I do want to ask about. Recently, we've kind of done some stuff together with Saturation and your practice or program. I'm just curious, like, how has Saturation kind of coming to the table, if you will, compared to what has existed in the past, changed either what you're doing or maybe like what a producer can benefit of? Do you have any kind of like thoughts on Saturation?
I believe in what you have created so much because I've used all of the other options that are out there. I've had all the spreadsheets and Google and Excel sheets. I've used, Showbiz, Hot Budget, like all the things I've worked in. And when I found out about Saturation and I got to talk to you and we started getting to know each other, I was like, okay, you've like unlocked something here. You have done the thing that I mentioned earlier. You saw the pain point and you created a solution to solve that pain point for people. And so all of the issues that I had with all of those other vehicles for bidding and budgeting and just like expense management are solved with Saturation. It's so easy to use. It's so clean. It's beautiful. It's stunning. And when my clients get a chance to experience that, I should have reached out to you last week, but I had a coaching call and one of my clients, it's a production company. So it's not like an individual freelancer, but a production company. And they put together a budget for this big project that they're doing. And I was like, oh, what are you using? And they told me, and I was like, have you heard of Saturation? And they're like, no. And I showed them Saturation and they were like, what is this? And I was like, I know, it's so good. It's so good. So it's like he had the website up as we were going through it and he was like, oh, and it does this. Oh, and it does this. And it does this. And it does this. He's like, yeah. So this is a tool and a resource that I think every producer should be jumping ship from whatever you want, whatever you're using. If you're scared to do it anyway, because it's only going to improve the experience that you have with the numbers and improve the experience for your clients and for the agencies that you're working with as well. Everything is just so organized and so perfect. And I love it so much.
That's incredible. I need to take you to every sales call with me now.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And I hope we do it again. Actually, this was really informative and I think a lot of people are going to really benefit from it. So thank you.
I would love to. And thanks for having me today.
Thanks for tuning in to Produced With. You can find more episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. Produced With is brought to you by Saturation. If you're a filmmaker, check out saturation.io, the all-in-one production budgeting, payments, and actualization tool. If you like this episode, subscribe to the show, leave us a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Special thanks to our producer Eugene Wade and editor Stephen Gray for helping shape the conversation and making it sound as good as it does. And hey, check out the show notes. Join the community and find us online.